doing great today. Um, okay, without further delay, I would just like us to talk about a very important topic. And this has been an argument that has been ongoing between fellow musicians and the church administrations or administrators or pastors and all the rest. And I think it's high time we address these issues once and for all. And this controversial topic has always been, should a church musician get paid? Should a church pay a drummer? Should a church pay the keyboardist? Should a church pay the trumpeter? Should a church pay, musicians generally? And on this live session today, I'll just, from my own opinion, everybody have their own ideology and everybody have their own belief and the way they think. But for me, I'm going to mention types of drummers or musicians that we have in a church. Then you will now have to decide for yourself if musicians or drummers they are needed to be paid. Okay. Now the truth is there are all different kind of musicians in the church. You understand? So for me, I'll try to mention the categories of musicians that we have in the church. Number one, we have the professional drummers. These professional drummers, they don't do any other thing apart from music. Their livelihood is on music. This kind of people, they play for artists, they play in studio sessions. You understand? They all their life is music, and that's where they earn their living from. While we have that, this kind of drummers, they play both secular, they play both church gigs. You understand? They don't select whether this one is church or whether this one is hip hop or whatever. As long as music is concerned, those professionals, they play all kind and all genre of music. Do you understand? And we have semi-professionals. Okay, let me say semi-professional gospel drummers or musicians. Now, this kind of drummers, or permit me to still call them professionals, this kind of drummers, they only play for gospel, they only play gospel music. They have contracts with artists, they are brand ambassadors as well. They have their own studio, they own their own studio, or they play sessions and the studios. They are from one concert to another, they get hired from one concert to another, and all of that. For me, I'll categorize them as musician, semi-gospel musicians. You understand? They don't do any other thing apart from music, but just that them they are into gospel music alone. While the professional drummers that I first mentioned are the ones that play both gospel and secular music. Do we understand now? Also, I would like to mention the voluntary drummers or musicians. The voluntary drummers or musicians, these are the ones that do not expect any kind of funding or money or gift or anything from the church. Do you understand now? This kind of people, they are always or somehow available in the church. They just do things willfully, if I may say. It is voluntary. They are not expecting anything in return. Meanwhile, there are some who are, how do I put it? They are semi-voluntary in the sense that whatever church gives to them, they will accept it. Do you get me now? But they never fixed a price for the church to pay them. These semi-voluntary musicians, they don't tag a price on themselves that the church must pay them so amount. Do we get now? But whatever the church gives to them, they take it. That's why I call them semi-voluntary. These voluntary ones are the ones that do not expect anything. Even if they are being given, they will say no. While semi-voluntary musicians or drummers are the ones who don't tag a price on themselves. They only accept whatever is being given to them. But there is a but for the semi-voluntary um, musicians. Most times, in fact, for the voluntary and the semi-voluntary, most times semi-voluntary and the voluntary musicians, they have another thing that they do that makes money for them. Do you understand now? Those that are semi-voluntary and voluntary drummers or musicians, they have other means of livelihood. Do we get it now? I repeat again, the semi-voluntary musicians or drummers and the voluntary musicians and drummers, they have other means of livelihood. So whether the church give them something as appreciation or not, we call it stipends here in Nigeria. I don't know where you are watching me from. They accept it anyways. Why the professionals, they you deal with them based on contracts. We are going for a tour. This is our duration. How much are you charging me? You agree on the amount. They rehearse with you. They go with for the they go with you to whatever wherever you are going to have your programs or events. They are back to their base. Why the gospel professionals, they are basically on gospel music, from one gig to another, concert to another, studio sessions, you know, traveling both locally and abroad. You understand? They don't play secular, they are on gospel music. Those ones too, they charge you or they have a contract with you. But those that are the semi-voluntary and the voluntary drummers or musicians, the voluntary ones are the ones who do not demand anything from the church because they have another means of livelihood. They have other things that they do. Why the semi-voluntary, they don't charge, they don't tag any price on themselves, but anything you can give to them, they will accept it with love. Come rain, come shine, they are always around, regardless whether salary cease for a month or two or three, they don't care because they have other source of income. So now, excuse me, now let's talk about this now. Should church musicians get paid? Now, from the type of musicians that I listed before now, I want to believe that the answer is being given already. If you're a professional musician, you don't have any other thing doing apart from music, I think they deserve payment because some persons takes music as profession. Just like we have plumbers, just like we have carpenters, just like we have bricklayers, mason, tilers, and all the rest. The same way applies to those professional musicians. All the day, every hour and seconds of their life, they dedicate it to rehearsals, they dedicate it to getting materials that will improve them, they dedicate it to, working out on themselves to be a professional. Do you understand? They don't do any other thing, they don't have any other means of livelihood. So from my own point of view, I would say they deserve payment. Okay. While for the semi voluntary musicians and the voluntary musicians, like the name implies, it is voluntary. It is a voluntary thing. Whether they get paid or not, fine. They are good to go and they still render their service. For those that are professionals, when they want to play, they charge you for service. Okay. It is their profession. It is not a voluntary thing. So I think to settle this, the pastors should identify what kind of musicians they want in their church. I want to advise to the men of God that they should mention the kind of musicians they want in their churches. Do they want the professional ones? The professional ones does not have any other thing that they do apart from music. Definitely, they should get paid. Why the voluntary musicians and the semi-voluntary musicians, which I explained earlier, they don't care whether you pay them or you tip them little or whatever. They don't mind because they have other means of income, they have other means of livelihood. But for those who are professionals, they deal based on contracts or they charge you for service. So I think, to be fair enough, professional musicians should get paid, while the voluntary ones can accept whatever that is being given to them. For instance, myself, I would say I'm a semi-voluntary drummer because I have other means of income. I have other means of livelihood. I am a plumber and I am also a drummer. Do we understand now? So, whatever church gives to me, I accept it with love and with blessings from God. I am never tagging this must be so amount you give me. You understand? But for those who take this as a profession, they don't have any other thing that they are doing. I think they should get paid. You understand? When they charge you, of course, they can be rooms for negotiation. But when they charge you to pay them, do not see them as sinners. Do not see them as if they are evil. That's what they do for a living. Just like we have nurses, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have all kind of professions. They are musicians. They are professional musicians. They don't have any other thing that they do. That is their means of livelihood. So they should get paid for it. For the semi-voluntary musicians and the voluntary musicians, those ones, anything they get, they are okay with it, no issues. Now, I decided to, pick on this topic and then discuss about it because it is not good enough to play church music with grumbling. Do we understand now? So, rather than letting our service to God unacceptable or unaccepted by God, I think it's our time for every musicians, every church musicians to identify what kind of musicians that they are. It's high time they identify what kind of musicians that they are. Do I want to play this music as a professional? Meaning I am not doing any other thing. If so, when you are being called for interview or to play at a gig at a church or anywhere, you tag your price. Okay. And if you know you want to be a voluntary or a semi-voluntary musician, that means you have other source, other means of livelihood. So whatever you get from the gigs or the church where you play from, whatever that is being given to you, you accept it with love. Do we understand now? So I think it's high time for we musicians to just make the decision of I am playing for church as voluntary or semi-voluntary or as a professional. So have this, once you have concluded and you've made your decision, then I think we are good to go. There will be no more arguments. There will be no more conflict of and they are not being paid, they are being paid, they are not being paid, they are being paid. So please identify your field, identify um, where you belong. If you want to be a professional, a voluntary or semi-voluntary musician. Okay, that will be all for today's live session. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. Of course, I will upload this on my channel. So for those that miss out on the live session, they can still get to watch it as a replay. See you next time. Make sure you subscribe, you share my video, and I've got some content coming up. I'm just taking my time to plan it. So when I resume fully, I go nowhere and you go nowhere too. Okay, so I love you guys. This is Easy Strokes Official TV. Thank you for watching and happy Sunday in advance. Bye.